What's going on, everyone? Kakaogames revealed Archeage 2 at G-Star 2022. So we're going to go through the trailer video here for it and then talk about what we saw and what's shown, as well as the interview that Jake Song does, and talk about our thoughts around each of the questions that he answers in that interview, and some of our thoughts around Archeage 2 and what it could mean for this game. So that being said, let's get into it. Nice little knowing. It is at the very least gorgeous through and through. If this is what the game is supposed to end up like looking like, anywhere close to this, the game will at least be, I mean, if this gameplay is what the game is supposed to like look like, this is the graphics of the game, it's gonna be gorgeous, at least visually. So it looks like they are going with action combat though for it. Mixed feelings about that. They just did a quick little trailer for it. And now we get into Jake's song.
네, 아케이지 2는 전 세계적으로 많은 사랑을 받은 아케이지의 후속작으로 심리스 오픈월드.
Okay, so first thing to note with it, what they say here is Archeage is still going to remain a seamless open world. So that's really important, because one of the biggest things that was great about Archeage was the seamless, persistent open world with no loading screen to go around from place to place, being able to sail your clipper from one continent to the other, and pretty much just go to any place that you wanted to without any sort of loading screen or instancing. Unless you used one of your portals for it.
액션 MMORPG입니다. PC와 콘솔에서 플레이할 수 있는 멀티 플랫폼으로 개발하고 있습니다.
So it looks like they're gonna go with a multi-platform for it. I guess, I mean, that's not crazy these days. There's a lot of MMOs that are currently multi-platform, like ESO and BDO and a couple others, or that have attempted being multi-platform. So they're going to be on console and PC. Not sure how that's going to work out with Unreal 5 and how that performance will be on console. I imagine on PC it'll be fine overall for general gameplay, but for console, some of those rigs might be running a little hot with the way this game is looking and what it's supposed to offer. But that also raises the question about the depth of the gameplay, if it's going to be on console compatible with a controller. So it doesn't seem like with that intention alone, they're going to overload the keybinds like original Archeage had.
아케이지 2는 액션성 높은 전투를 최우선적으로 개발을 하고 있고요. 또 몰입감 있는 스토리를 위해서 연출을 강화하고 있습니다. 그리고 언리얼 5를 이용한 트리플 A급의 비주얼을 추구하고 있고, 또 비선형적인 진행이 가능한 심리스 오픈월드 게임입니다.
Okay. So they're going with action combat, and that's interesting. Okay. I know there's a lot of BDO fans that are like, okay, POG, action combat. But for a lot of people who maybe also played Archeage, from the beginning, the change to action has some interesting potential impacts on certain elements of gameplay that the game had previously. Like we think action combat, and then let's factor in one of the biggest parts of Archeage for a lot of people, the water PvP that went on, the water combat. how is that going to work with this action combat? We haven't really seen that in a game. I guess the closest one would have been Guild Wars 2, but theirs was still more of a, tab lock on type thing, not a genuine action. Um, as well as, how are the interactions with mounts and the gliders, if those are things that they're bringing back, right? You would hope that, the gliders and the naval PvP would all be key elements of Archeage 2. And so, the transition to action combat is going to be interesting to see how some of the original systems of Archeage 1 and their functionality, how they're going to interact and work with the transitional change to action, as well as, the very typical difficulties that come with action combat desync. Not to mention it'll be on Unreal 5, so I don't doubt the game's going to be gorgeous and it's going to look and probably feel really good to play. Except for, that, when that desync starts to kick in, we'll see how well that goes. And sometimes, depending on how they do the action, if those are snippets of it, little samples, if we look at it, I think it was right here at the very beginning, right? The character movement looks a little slow, even at the sideways running seems a little slow, but that could just be for the moment of this trailer video, or anything, what have you. But yeah, so that's definitely some things to keep in mind. Will be interesting to see how the transition to action will actually impact that original Archeage experience, as well as the functionality of so many of its core original systems. Any changes to the lore or story?
세계관은 공유를 하는데 아케이지 1과 똑같은 스토리가 진행되는 건
Same
아니고요.
lore as Archeage 1,
아케이지 1은 이제
but it's
큰
not going to be
세상
the same
적인
storyline,
이야기를
if you will.
하기보다는 이제
It's going to take place in the
투에서는
same universe,
개인적인 모험, 개인적인 스토리에
but it looks like it's based on your
중점을
character's personal
진행이
experience in the world,
되고요.
which, a little more sandboxy.
비슷한 시점인데 이제 원대륙이 처음 발견되고 사람들이 이제
So, same type of timeline and universe. You're going to be going to Aurora, discovering it for the first time, being first-time settlers there.
그런 시점입니다. 예전에 고대 문명이 있었는데 이제 오랫동안 사람들이 살지 않았기 때문에 이제 버려진 상태로 몇천 년이 지나다 보니 이제 자연
Discovering and solving mysteries. So, I want to go back to this thing real quick. If this is like a visual, like, if you're in game and like this is a type of scenery that you actually see, you can see the Zeppelin right there, the airship is Rocala. If this is Rocala Mountains right here, I mean, it's gorgeous, right? That's Unreal 5.
그런 걸 갖다가 이제 점점 탐험해 나가면서 옛날 고대 문명을 다시 발견하게 되고 거기에 얽힌 어떤 비밀들을 다시 풀어나가는 이러한 스토리로 진행이 될 예정입니다. 아키 1에서 이제 무역 컨텐츠가 있었는데 이게
Trade system.
많은 분들이 또 재밌어하고 많은 분들이 즐기시던 컨텐츠인데 뭐 또 여러 가지 문제도 많이 있었습니다. 아키 2에서는 이제 그 부분을 많이 개성을 해서 혼자서 할 수 있는 무역, 또 팀 단위로 할 수 있는 무역, 또 많은 사람이 참가하는 레이드 단위로 할 수 있는 무역 등등을
Raid trade runs.
예정으로 있습니다. 또 굉장히 이제 인기 있었던 시그네처 같은 컨텐츠가 이제 생활 컨텐츠, 하우징 이쪽 컨텐츠인데 아키 2에서는 이제 당연히 이쪽 컨텐츠를 계승해서 하우징의 커스터마이제이션을 더 많이 할 수 있게 해준다든가, 또 원하는 사람들끼리 모여서 길드 단위로 이제 하우징 타운 단위로 할 수 있게 해준다라든가 그런 쪽으로 개선시킬 예정입니다.
Okay, that's interesting.
아케이지를 사랑해 주신 전 세계 많은 유저 여러분들께 감사 인사드리고요. 아케이지 2로 여러분들과 다시 만나기 위해서 개발팀이 진짜 열심히 일하고 있습니다. 많은 성원과 응원 부탁드리겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Okay, so looking at that, what they talk about there is the trade system. So they're bringing back the trade system. They're looking at improving the trade system. You know, they mentioned that the previous trade system was obviously flawed, but you know, it's seen many iterations from original Archeage 1. But that was a core thing many players loved about Archeage was the trade system. So, I mean, if they're able to enhance that experience, which I imagine they're going to be completely reworking it, so it's probably going to be a completely different trade system. So we don't know how that's going to play out just yet. But the other thing was the housing that he talks about there. They're looking to this is something that was interesting here. They're planning to improve the housing by adding more customization and allowing players to live in towns with their friends. So, I mean, I'm wondering if that means being able to get a house inside one of the literal towns or cities in Aurora, right? That there was before, you know, like living inside one of the capital cities, or, you know, inside of, you know, just one of the small town areas, you know, maybe in like Rookborn, or, you know, one of those other zones. But it's an interesting idea about that. But the idea right here is creating their own towns with their guild members. Now, this begs the question of, is this going to be is this going to be housing that is in the open world? Are you going to be able to make your own town? That will be very sandboxy of the game, but how will that impact the world itself, and what kind of impact is that going to have on the world? But that is an interesting idea of them mentioning right there, creating your own town with your guild members. I don't know if that's just making like a little, like, you know, getting your guild together in one area and calling it a town, right? You know, you're all out there in, you know, Windscour, you know, by yourselves by the little pond or what have you, and if you call that a town or not. But you know, if it's one of those things where you can make like your own little, you know, town and, like, you know, set up like an NPC shop or something like that, you know, that could be a cool thing to have. So long as it's not like, you know, egregiously impactful on the game systems. But yeah, I mean, you know, looking at everything that it's offering, I mean, you know, it's looking like it's going to be gorgeous. The game is going to be on Unreal 5. It's going to be absolutely visually stunning, no doubt, if this trailer is any indication of it. But as we've known with Archeage's history and its just typical monetary design that it goes with, not holding my breath with it being monetarily acceptable by the West by any means. I imagine it will still probably be quite egregious in terms of its monetization. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see with that. But again, this action, it's almost, I'm wondering about it, is if it's almost like the action, if this is supposed to be part of a cutscene, or if this is like scripted. The dodge roll doesn't seem scripted. That looks like a diagonal dodge roll. But this leap into the slash, I mean, I don't know if that's part of a lock-on for it to go at the head there, or if that's an aimed thing with the leap. You know, that's the type of thing. We don't know how the action combat is actually going to work. Is it going to be actual action combat, or is it going to be, you know, more akin to what, you know, we've seen with like Ashes of Creations, or you know, with the lock-on mode and things like that, or, you know, a more hybrid type system, but still calling it action, right? So that's going to be something that'll be interesting to see with it as well. But, you know, just looking at it, if this is supposed to be the, like, you know, gameplay, I mean, it's gorgeous, right? It looks cool. It looks like, you know, it's going a little bit of a combo system, at least is what it seems like. I can't imagine it's going to be too intricate or crazy with the system that they do, just because it's going to be on controller. It's going to be on like, console as well. So, I mean, it's just one of those things that we need more information on. But from what is shown here and from what they talk about with it, I mean, at the very minimum, it's going to be gorgeous and it'll be cool to definitely explore the world. Explore Aurora in Unreal 5, see how the sailing is, see if gliding's still a thing, how gliding works, how driving a clipper around works, how trade packs are going to work, and all the different, original systems that Archeage had, and what they bring over to Archeage 2, how it all is going to exactly work. But interesting. We'll just have to wait and see with more information as the time gets closer for the game to come out, which they didn't reveal anything about a release date at this time or anything like that. So just gonna have to wait and see. But again, not holding my breath with the monetization, but we can always hope. Copium, but time will tell. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.